Welcome, one and all, to Spider-Man 2, superhero stuff you should know, the power of the sun in the palm of our hands. What's up? This is Spider-Ben 2, and with me, as usual, is...
Andrew, and read my name, please.
Websplooge Boogaboo.
Boogaloo,
sorry. It's a little small on my screen because I have a bunch of windows for this presentation. Boogaloo, Websplooge Boogaloo Bush.
Yeah, electric boogaloo, you know how it goes. The second one, man.
So welcome, everyone. So yeah, we are continuing the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, going into Spider-Man 2, widely regarded as the best of the trilogy. It's the Dark Knight of Spider-Man movies in some ways, as the second in a trilogy that was widely regarded. Roger Ebert said it was the greatest superhero movie that he had seen at that time, I think.
Wow.
From what I remember.
Okay.
So, high praise. Though, yeah, and who knows what he would have thought about stuff later on. But for this one, for sure, it is, it was a hell of a movie to see in the theaters. I remember being really excited once I saw that review from Ebert, and it didn't disappoint for me in the theater. So it's good to take a look and see what could have been with a lot of these, as well with the concept art.
Yes, Michael Chapin and others, I'm sure we'll get to that later, really brought it. He was one of the writers.
Yes, so I was looking into this too, because we did get a comment about that. So I was looking into the history of Spider-Man 2, and it started with the guys who did Smallville, Al Gough and Miles Miller.
Really?
They did the first draft, according to what I've read, and that one included Doc Ock, along with other villains, which we'll get into in the Patreon preview this week. And it was Michael Chabon who came in next, who said, you don't need the other villains. Just put in Doc Ock and Spider-Man. And so it's because of him that things, once again, remained focused on one hero, one villain.
Have you seen my Pulitzer?
So
thank you. That's probably how it went.
Yes. So it was because of that. And I haven't read his draft, but I did watch a video interview where he talked about it. It almost sounds, based off the interview, he implied that was the main thing. That was his main contribution, was keeping it down to Peter and Doc Ock. And
hey, that's a really good note, though.
That's
a really good note.
Overcrowd this shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then after that is Alvin Sargent, who I think did Ordinary People. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay.
Again, like high caliber. You got Michael Chabon. You got the guys from Smallville, and you've got the guy who did, Ordinary People, all collaborating. Well, not together, but like all working on the script. And I believe Alvin Sargent, according to one of our fans and patrons, Kira Medhead over at the Screenplay Archaeology podcast, Alvin Sargent was the one who kind of brought everything together, taking the best elements of the Gough and Miller stuff and the Chabon stuff, and forming the Spider-Man 2 that we ended up seeing.
Okay.
So that's kind of the history.
For some reason, I thought it was Chabon alone. I guess I needed to do my homework on that one, my research.
I'd be curious to read the script, though.
Yeah.
So let us know if anybody has it, though. To be fair, I haven't done that much of a search of it yet myself. So maybe it's easy to find online, so we'll see.
Okay.
But anyway, we are going over the concept art for this week. And as you can imagine, a ton of it's going to be on Doc Ock. Just a lot of it. Tentacles galore. You're going to see more tentacles than you've ever seen in a single episode than in this.
More than any of that anime you saw by yourself.
If you like to fondle tentacles, this episode is for you. So let's go.
Oh my God, man.
Before we get into tentacles, though, let's go into Peter's apartment. Yes, where the tentacle action will happen.
Boring.
No, but these are concept art by Peter of Peter's apartment by Jamie Rama. And I mainly included this as well because of this concept, which is the next slide. It is almost supposed to be almost like the basement of Peter's apartment, or Peter's apartment was above a TV repair shop, as we see here in these original concepts. That's not the case in the actual movie, but I guess they were playing around with this concept. Will Reese is the concept artist for this one. And they never used this in the final film, but here's a bunch of the store guys playing cards, and maybe this is where, because there's a similar scene with Mr. Ditkovich, the landlord, in the movie, asking Peter to pay rent. Maybe the idea was that Ditkovich was going to be down there playing cards in the TV repair shop and yelling at Peter to pay him the rent. I don't know.
It needs to be that guy from, forgive me, I forget his name, but the guy from Ace Ventura. Ventura. Yes, Satan? Oh, I thought you were somebody else. To me, he was, growing up with Ace Ventura, he was the landlord of all landlords. Peter.
So this would be, this was kind of a cool look to stuff, but that's not what we got, and that's fine.
That's fine. I see why you did it. You wanted to show the contrast. Not boring.
Yes, less boring. But let's go into what we all were looking for. Doc Ock. We have a shit ton of Doc Ock to show you guys. So this is the first one that we see here. This is from James Carson. This is very old school, very close to the original Steve Ditko Doc Ock look and stuff when he's like in the laboratory experimenting, because originally the tentacles were things that he used to help him in his experiments and stuff. So the idea that he's behind this protective glass as the tentacles are doing their work are kind of, very similar to what we saw in that comic. And so Carson is just kind of bringing the comic to life in this little concept art here. Moving further, we got Ock, who now has the tentacles fused to him in this piece by Jim Martin. And it looks like he's raging in his lab or apartment or something at the TV. Knocking over one of his lamps, too, on the left here. So an interesting setting that we didn't end up seeing in the movie.
This is like if Cronenberg made Doc Ock, I think. It's kind of realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and body horror-ish. It's like this is... I mean, it's fun in a horror way, but it's like kind of not as fun as Raimi, you know? So
right.
A little bit different vibe here, really.
Yeah, I like the shadow, too. I like the silhouette of his hands.
Yeah.
That's a nice touch.
It is cool.
I think the most widely seen version of the concept art is this next one from Paul Catling. It is, quote-unquote, one of the designs that stuck, according to Neil Spisak, I think is how you pronounce it. And Spisak was kind of in charge of a lot of the concept art department. So a lot of these artists, whether it's Paul Catling or Will Rees or James Carson, they were all working for Spisak in this. So this is very close to what we got in the movie with sort of the shirtless Octavius walking out after the hospital and stuff, sort of bare-chested with the stuff that's been fused to his stomach. So very close here.
Yeah, especially those tentacles themselves. Pretty much exactly what they made, right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
This is what we got in terms of the behind, like what we see behind on his back with the neuroinhibitor chip having already been blown off in some way, or maybe they just didn't add it to this one since he's supposed to have that chip in the back of his neck that got blown out that lead the tentacles to sort of take over his mind. So
speaking of what you're talking about, so it's not too much of a tangent.
Sure.
It's going into his mind, like the way they portrayed the tentacles kind of talking to him. It was like, look, I know this is probably because of my upbringing coming from the evangelical South, but it was like, it kind of feels like it though. They made it like the snake was trying to seduce him into something.
I like that.
They made him like snakes, like trying to make him like become evil, become sin in a way. You know what I mean? Like that was kind of one of the main things I was thinking when I saw the movie.
I've never thought of that connection in all the ways that in all the many times that I've seen it, but that's true. They're
coming to him and he's like, oh yeah, talking to the fucking talking to his own tentacles kind of. It's like a snake, and it's so perfect because the way tentacles, they look similar. So it was a really good thing they did.
Yeah, for sure. Moving further, so this is one of Paul Carling's final illustrations for Doc Ock. We have the trench coat look over the bare chest that we got in the movie, very close to what we ended up getting. And it is, quote unquote, it reflects months of creative collaboration by the filmmakers in terms of this final look they went with for Ock in the movie.
Yeah, pretty cool. I mean, no notes from me. Yeah. Pretty much,
Looks good.
Yeah.
So we have a ton of other stuff. So this is by Alex Tavoularis, a very early insertion device. As you can see, this is kind of like an early concept of what the tentacles could have looked like when he's experimenting with them in the beginning. And it just feels very bulky in some ways, but it kind of makes sense in terms of it being, the beginning where it's just him and using this device as a tool, and maybe presumably that like backpack knapsack looking thing gets blown off and it gets fused to his back in a more sleek way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a little bit. It's kind of bulky, but this is like a prototype kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see the ends of the tentacles are very different. I mean, look at that. I mean, each one has a different end to it.
Yeah. It's okay. I mean, I like what we got more, but it's not
definitely
terrible.
Yeah, this is kind of the early stuff beforehand. This is a similar idea where it's almost like a fitness contraption type of thing that he uses to he like does a press in order to like bring the tentacles to his back, it looks like. So they were playing around with this, I guess, as another way to have him put him on.
Dr. Swoltavius.
This is when Arnold was when he was in the works, I guess.
Was he ever supposed to be Doc Ock?
Well, that was kind of the rumor for the Cameron version, but I don't think for Spider-Man 2, right. I don't think he was ever in consideration.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
So let's see. We have more like a close-up version of how the tentacles were supposed to fit to his back, and then another look at something closer by James Carson. Carson said that he created one image of the insertion device and arms that looked a bit like a crustacean. He wanted the feeling of a parasitic alien creature. So that you would have the idea of it being like another intelligence coming together with Octavius' intelligence.
Raimi wanted that?
Yeah. And Carson was the artist who brought that idea to life, or was playing around with this idea, which I think is what ends up in the movie, right? Where you have this very alien-looking... They're also kind of like the Sentinel tentacles from the Matrix. Not the Sentinels from X-Men, but the Sentinels from the Matrix.
Yeah.
With that sort of look to them. So I think that was really cool.
I think it does get across, like them having their own intelligence, right? Mm-hmm. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but
it definitely comes across.
Right? They don't outright say that though, right? But it definitely comes across. So
yeah, you never hear their voices. Melina sells the fact that they're talking to him, but we never actually hear the voice.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and being tempted like the snake.
Mm-hmm. Which I guess goes to show the quality of the writing and the performance, that like we never needed to hear the tentacles' voices in his head. He was able to. We knew what they were saying based off of his responses.
The evil AI, dude. It was very topical. We just didn't know it.
Right. Another look here at the same thing. Again, that like spinal thing that goes all the way up to his neck that has that neural inhibitor chip. That, of course, plays an important role in this. That prevents them from being able to control him until the experiment creates the, basically causes it to explode and creates the fusion.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more from Carson as well of how it was supposed to attach to his back. Again, playing around with this because this is an important aspect, of course, to the character. So they wanted to make sure that they would get it right. So of course we're going to see a ton of this. More of the harness and the tentacles from Paul Catling here, with his arms at rest. And this is where we bring in one of our former guests, Tim Flattery, who worked on Batman Returns, Batman Forever, Jingle All the Way. He's worked on a ton of Marvel stuff, and Spider-Man 2 I don't think it was the first Marvel one he worked on, but I think maybe the second, because I think he worked on X-Men 2.
Okay.
But I might be wrong on that, actually. I'll look that up between now and the break. But he definitely has worked on a ton of the Marvel stuff, including recent Marvel stuff like Wakanda Forever, Thor: Love and Thunder, and it's clearly one of his fortes is working in the superhero realm. So we've got some Spider-Man 2 stuff to look at here with a lot of the tentacle work. This is the end of the tentacles that we can see, and I think we have an even more like snake-like look to them in this.
Oh man, they're really it would really look like what I was talking about if they did this.
Yeah, I know, right?
Right.
So yeah, we got that, and I just looked it up. Tim did work on the X-Men movies.
Okay.
So that would probably be, that predates this. But yeah, the tentacles are here.
Well,
just
if
floating around with a lot
Flattery
of
if Flattery did it, I'm gonna just like it already. So
Yeah, I know. So I'm sure he'll have a lot to say when we talk to him about this type of stuff. But this is interesting. I'd love to hear what this is supposed to be, because this looks like another look at the end of the tentacles, but it's like there's like readouts on it from what we can see here. I'm not really sure what they were playing around with, but we could we could ask him and see what they had in mind.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea. Looks cool. I mean, probably maybe just wanted a digital look added to him for some reason.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is back to James Carson, and look at the fusion device that causes the entire explosion to happen that creates Doc Ock. So this is a different type of setting that we got in the movie, where it was kind of set up in Ock's lab. Looked a lot less sophisticated, more of like a home type of lab. Here it's a lot more sophisticated, a lot more of it's almost like he's in an Oscorp special like silo type of thing. This is another look where Carson wanted the fusion to take place in a closed environment, saying, in this option I imagine him being encased in a translucent sphere which might contain the reaction. So we get a similar thing in the movie, but not quite this. That this isn't him in an actual sphere in this, whereas the movie kind of has him inside something that kind of creates this circular look to it, but isn't this literal sphere like this.
Okay.
This is another look here at another possibility, a more traditional laboratory setting that Carson was playing around with. They said that it was, quote, a less fantastic environment, something more generic and believable. As fantastic as Spider-Man is, Sam has always been concerned that the vibe be grounded in a believable environment. So that's kind of why they played around with this. This is a little bit blander, I think. It's just kind of a regular laboratory. Maybe it's just the whole fluorescent light look and all the white coats and stuff, but I like the style better. And, what we got in the final movie as well was something like this.
Yeah, I think what's in the movie is probably better. I don't hate this, but it's a different vibe, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. More from Carson in terms of the lab. Again, the lab was an important thing because this is where you need the origin to take place, and it needs to be believable. This almost looks a little bit like, I don't know, I think it's just I'm just looking at the brick arches at the top, but it almost looks like it's almost underground in a way. But I think maybe that's just what the place looks like.
This is just supposed to be some sort of reactor for Doc Ock, or what was this again?
as he's doing his fusion device
for
for his experiment. So this is another look at what his lab would have looked like as he was experimenting and going to find ways to again bring the power of the sun in the palm of his hand. This is all to create clean energy and stuff. And of course,
I thought you were bringing the power of the octopus to your back. That's what it looks like anyway.
That's what he ended up doing. Instead of getting the power of the sun.
It's not much of a sun vibe going on.
Yeah.
It's the reactor. I know I get it, but it's the reactor powering the goddamn things, but still.
Yes.
It's just funny.
Yeah, this is for sure a different vibe to it. This is a colder environment. This is almost kind of reminds me a little bit of Dark City.
Dude, I thought you were going to say that. Yes. Fucking Dark City, dude.
Yeah.
My God. Look, kids, if you didn't live in the 90s, do yourself a favor. Watch Dark City.
Mm-hmm.
For the love of God. Just go watch it. It's one of those movies that really stuck with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it had a really cool look like this photo. So I'm going back on track.
Yeah. So it does look like this. Like this, I wouldn't be surprised. You could see Kiefer Sutherland's scientist character in the background working on shit in this type of thing. So we could totally have that vibe.
What was that line that guy said? I found a way out. The A train. Or something like that. And he jumps in.
Right in front of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, dude. What a
so good.
Great hidden gem of a film there.
So yeah. Check that out, guys, if you haven't already.
Yeah.
This is a little bit of a less Dark City of a look here, but
not too much less.
But not too much, considering you've also got a guy in Vitruvian Man style on this thing.
Yes.
That's very close to what Rufus Sewell's character in Dark City ends up in. So this is another way, I guess, for Ock to get the tentacles. Again, they're just really playing around with multiple different ways that this guy's lab would look, and how to explain these things, and because it's important, you need people to believe that.
It reminds me of Lawnmower Man.
Oh yeah, that's probably more. Yeah, I think it's a little bit more of that vibe than a little less Dark City, still a little bit of Dark City, but more Lawnmower Man.
Somebody pointed out that like they should, when they reboot movies, they should reboot movies that kind of weren't great but had a lot of potential. And I think Lawnmower Man was pretty good, but that movie was brought up, and I was like, yeah, that movie probably could be redone and made a lot better now, especially with all the AI talk again.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's true.
But this is kind of it's just a slightly different vibe. This is the second movie, so they definitely have, like, they know what Raimi's going for ultimately. But I don't know. They just wanted to draw something dark, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
It's fine.
Let's see. Going further, similar type of vibe again with the Vitruvian Man type of thing, just from another angle.
This sort of reminds me of the Large Hadron Collider at CERN. Sorta. It's. I mean, it doesn't. It has like a big long tube though. But I don't know. There's something about this that reminds me of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe some of the there's just a lot more like white to this lab, so maybe some of that sort of clean, sterile environment type of feel to it.
Lab coats.
Yep. Another look. So we're getting a little close to what it looks like in the final film, because the actual like fusion reactor thing was more of this thing that kind of formed a sphere, but also sort of looks like Ock's tentacles at the same time. You see here, where it's like the outline of a sphere, but it's not an actual sphere. And so I kind of like they settled on something like this, which I think is a nice mix of what you need. You got the sphere type of shape, but you also have the hints at Ock's tentacles, so it kind of fits in with the same aesthetic.
It looks cool. I mean, from a like artistic standpoint, and look, you guys are like doing conceptual art for big directors. What do I know? I can barely even draw myself. But like, there's like no focal point in this image, I think. Like it's kind of a random perspective. But whatever.
It almost feels like this was meant to just be a backdrop, and they were supposed to like put something else in there.
Yes.
Not there yet.
Something's missing, I think. Yeah, you're right.
It's like in progress. Like Ock was supposed to be like in like a little bit to the like center right.
Yes, exactly. It's just something's. It's weird. I don't know, but it does look like you're peeking in, so that's something.
Yeah. Another look too at the fitness device. Again, this Arnold just pumping iron as the thing is coming towards him, but we can kind of see it like outlining this green grid on his back as it's coming towards him. Kind of cool.
Matrix style kind of
a little bit of
scanning
Matrix
vibe.
Yeah. And then another one. Again, they were really into this whole idea of him doing this like little press thing as the tentacles come for his back. Because I guess they need to explain that.
Maybe he's supposed to like hold on to something because it's painful for a moment. I don't know.
Yeah, potentially. Or he has to stand still and stuff. Thing is, in the movie, I kind of just remember it coming up and attaching to him. I don't really remember another device that he used to put the tentacles on himself. So I think maybe they just thought, you know what? Do we spend all this money trying to create something like this? Or do we just kind of use some editing, and when we cut to his back, it's already like crawling up his back, and then that's it?
True. Yeah, it's a lot more CG. It's a whole other budget item. It's just a whole deal.
Yeah. Moving further, this is he's about to get caught in the explosion. This is James Carson again. We're back to the Dark City vibes.
Very cool though. I mean I like this one.
Yeah,
I always like this kind of art.
So yeah, this is a very classic silhouette too of Ock in there with the tentacles. So I like the silhouette. This is supposed to be him post accident. You can see with the bandages around his head. On that, but it was mainly this is by Adam Brockbank, and this was mainly to show off how like his back would look with the tentacles.
You got to figure it out. You got to figure it out.
And then another look at the accident itself from James Carson. Again, very different from the movie, which it was a lot more orange here. It's, more of a blue lightning type of look. It's almost like he's getting struck by lightning in this part as it fuses to him. So this is another interesting look. And it's almost like he's, I guess he's getting flown back to the impact or something, or he's been floating in some way before he gets hit. So
to me, I read it as him getting hit and being thrown back.
Yeah. And then this is the aftermath of it, where everything's all fucked, as we can see in the center, and then his broken body over there. There's nobody in this besides Octavius, whereas in the movie, obviously, there's a bunch of people there, including Peter and Octavius's wife. But I think maybe there was just they just didn't put the people in this so that they could just have more of the architecture in there. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, it looks cool. It looks like a bug, kind of.
Yeah, or like a bug that's been squashed in some way.
Like a hive, like a wasp nest or something.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorta, with just light inside of it. That's that's kind of what I'm getting from it.
Yeah, I can see that. This is Ock returning to his lab. We'll see other versions of this from Carson later on in here, but we are going to start taking a look at Ock, basically post-accident with some of these. So this is from Alex Tavolaris, where, as you can see, he's got his tentacles holding multiple things, including, if you look directly to the right of his face, a hot dog. Yes, the other one above it is pouring mustard on it. So it's designed to illustrate just the, quote-unquote, the precision and dexterity of the arms, the tentacles and stuff. So it's that's... and he's reading a book down below and holding... Or maybe he's pouring ketchup and he's got mustard in the other hand. It's kind of hard to read these with this, but you get the picture.
Yeah, he's multitasking. Multitasking like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Brilliant.
Melina and the Doc Ock body type, probably eats a hot dog every now and again.
Right.
Which is fine. I do. Yeah. I mean, I like that he's not a jacked dude. It's cool he's got like a normal body.
Yeah, because he's supposed to be a scientist. He's not supposed to be a bodybuilder dude.
Yeah.
So moving here, Alex Tavolaris again on the left from what looks like him, post-accident after getting out of the hospital, and then we would get the sort of the look, the similar look on the cover of the Daily Bugle in the movie, with the Doc Ock still at large article in the front here. So this was, prop master was Douglas Harlocker, who commissioned graphic artist Francois Adoy to create these the Bugle covers that kind of were based off. This one specifically kind of seems a little bit based off of the Tavolaris art on the left here.
Looks pretty cool, probably pretty quick drawing, but yeah, I mean, it's cool to see him kind of lift himself up like that.
Yeah, sure. And then we have at the top Ritz Glitz Glamour at the Planetarium fundraiser, which I believe is foreshadowing that fundraiser where Peter shows up and MJ is going to be basically marrying Jameson's son and stuff. So I think they're already kind of having that connection in there. Paul Catling has a little bit more, much darker. You can barely really make out Doc at all in both of these.
Yeah.
There's almost light spewing out of these tentacles as well.
I mean, they probably could have that function, right? I mean,
they could,
pretty scary scene, too. Could be cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a Matrix-y vibe in terms of like the real world in the Matrix movies.
Right.
With this, for how dark it is. But overall, like this is pretty much a lot of the Doc Ock stuff. So a ton of concepts, a ton of exploration on sort of the lab and how the tentacles are going to work and what the tentacles should look like and what he should look like when he has them all on. So as we can see, like they have to put a lot of thought into the designs of these villains and the explanation and origins of these villains. So I think that's going to just be a common trend as we keep going with these Spider-Man movies. Is just, all right, here's this villain and all the like 200 different ways that they try to render him or her. So, well, it's him, I think, for everybody, all the movies. So, so far, I think we like the Dark City vibes for some of the lab stuff.
Definitely, they definitely went a lot darker for kind of 90% of it for Doc Ock, which is interesting. I wonder why they did that. I mean, if it was the first movie, you could kind of tell, you could understand because they didn't know the overall vibe Raimi was going for yet, but the vibe was, the overall tone was pretty much similar to the first one. So it's interesting to see them experiment with how dark it is. Maybe they just wanted to see just very scary Doc Ock, and go from there.
Yeah, I think so too. So it's cool to see. But coming up, when we return from the break, we will check out a lot more concepts for different scenes, Doc Ock's ruined lab, and a deleted final shot. But until then, we have the break. Welcome, everyone, to the August announcements. We have a lot to share with you coming up this month, so let's get to it. As you know, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/superherostuffpod. We use the money for this towards, our recording space in StreamYard that we've seen here in all our episodes, our server, our website, our assistant, Dan Yamat, who does all the visuals and thumbnails for us. So we are currently sitting at a little less than $200 a month. Right now, we'd love to get to $300 a month, which would cover everything for us from month to month. If more people join the Patreon and we reach $300 a month in Patreon, we will celebrate that by covering one of our most requested episodes, Superman Lives, which would have been directed by Tim Burton and starring, as we see, Nicolas Cage. So that is our goal, to hit $300 a month on Patreon. You can help us get there by joining any of the Patreon tiers at patreon.com/superherostuffpod and, help us out a little over that.
It'll be an absolute Superman Lives bonanza multi-parter.
Oh, yes.
So, you get your money's worth. Yeah, yes. Don't worry. We'll cover the shit out of it. We just want to get to that new goal.
So thank you, everyone who's already part of the Patreon as well. In the meantime, some upcoming stuff that you guys might want to be on the lookout for. I will have a guest appearance this month on the podcast, Flashbacks, a Flash Rewatch podcast from one of our friends and Patreon patrons, Alex Ramsey. And we're going to discuss the Man in the Yellow Suit episode from Season 1, which was the very first appearance of the Reverse Flash on the CW show, at least the Reverse Flash in costume, since he was already kind of part of the show before that. But yes, that'll be what we cover, and I'll likely be on Alex's Night of the Batman podcast at some point as well, but I'll let you guys know when it comes.
All right.
So, moving forward, you've heard about this before, but we'll repeat again. We are executive producers and co-stars in an award-winning independent short film by Jeffrey Scott Richards. You can support the film over at the GoFundMe link that will be in the description below, as well as what's on screen, but you can also watch it now at the Multi-Dimension Independent Film Festival website. That link will also be in the description, but you can check it out. It features pretty much us in an exclusive recording. It is a Superhero Stuff You Should Know episode we recorded for the movie, in which we talk about Derek Magnum, who in the short is a director of comic book movies. So we talk about Derek in that, and kind of serve as the narrator and exposition through a Superhero Stuff You Should Know episode. So, a great use of us, I think, personally. So check that out over at basically the site is mdiff.net/Derek-Magnum. So that is what we got for our shorts. Go ahead.
It was an honor to be part of this, and if you could support them and support, it's just very expensive to make a movie, and if you could just check out his GoFundMe, that'd be great.
Yeah, and thanks to him, we are now award-winning producers, executive producers.
Yes,
on stuff on our IMDb. But this sending the films through film festivals is not cheap, so the GoFundMe goes towards the cost there, and it will support the movie. Again, it'll go towards the movie, and it'll go to Jeffrey. It will not go to us. We're good. We got our Patreon. Just to clarify that.
Yes.
Over to Andrew you've got something big coming up this month.
Okay, so speaking of, indie film, and the future is Kickstarter, I feel like, and Indiegogo. So this is Metal Force. This is, think of R-rated Power Rangers meet Stranger Things little bit of X-Files. Green Room, that A24 horror film where Patrick Stewart is a villain, is a neo-Nazi. No neo-Nazis in ours, but but there's a punk band in that movie and there's a metal band in ours. So that's another one I've been meaning to tell people. There's a little bit of Green Room in there. Anyway, Metal Force is a film I'm working on, and we're gonna have a booth at Japan World Heroes Convention. That's in the Burbank Marriott Convention Center, August 18th through 20th. We will have a little bit of stickers and stuff that'll be on sale, and just say hey, and we're going to officially launch the Kickstarter then. Metalforce.ninja, www.metalforce.ninja. That is our website. That is our URL. If you go there, there's a Kickstarter link there as well. You can find the Kickstarter there and get on the pre-launch page and sign up for pre-launch before we launch it on the 18th. And so far, as of this recording, we got 75. So if you want to kick us up into 100, that'd be cool. And yeah, it's this is going to connect to the next slide, but it just feels like Hollywood has failed us. And so I feel like Kickstarter and Indiegogo and GoFundMe and all of these are just really great avenues for filmmakers now. And like the Bat and the Sun guy's been doing it for a while. A lot of people have been doing it, and I am going to be part of that. With some friends. So yeah, stay tuned. Metal Force. If you like Power Rangers and Stranger Things, did you ever wish Power Rangers got darker? Did you want blood? Did you want limbs being ripped off? Metal Force.
Amazing.
Okay.
And moving on, we have our August charity that we'd like to share.
Yes. So it's the Entertainment Community Fund. This is to help starving artists. No, I mean, hopefully they're not starving, but some of them might be. People that are affected by the strike. We're not all. I mean, personally, I am too, but I have another gig that's kind of helping me out. But there's some people that don't have that extra gig, and people that aren't part of the union that don't have the strike fund. The unions have a strike fund that help support them during that, which is great. I am pro-union, but some other people, and people that I know also are affected by this that aren't part of the union. They don't get the strike fund money. So this Entertainment Community Fund helps to support them. So this is our charity for this month. Please go to entertainmentcommunity.org, and if you could donate anything, that would be great.
Yep, for sure. So yeah, please visit entertainmentcommunity.org, donate what you can, and help out those who are part of so many of these movies and TV shows that we talk about and that we know that you guys love.
Yes.
So I think that is it for the August announcements.
Just wanted to announce that I have a new podcast called Gaming Gaiden. It's about Japanese to English translation. In this first season, it will be 10 episodes each season. If you saw the ranking, every Superman video game two-parter we did here on Superhero Stuff You Should Know, you have seen Mike before. So yes, if you like video games, if you've been interested in Japanese ever, we're going to be talking a lot about just Japan in general, Japanese cultural differences as well, and we also are going to have a lot of talk about 90s video game magazines such as Electronic Gaming Monthly, aka EGM. So stay tuned for Gaming Gaiden podcast. It's already out now, y'all. I want to tell you about the patreon.com superherostuffpod, and on that you get the $1 tier. You can join the $1 tier, which gets you the shout out on the board, and either visually or orally, or both at times. We want to do the oral for the most part for newer people. And then the $5 tier gets you a whole new show. This show is every Monday, as you well know, and it's free on YouTube and the what's nots. And the Patreon show is every Friday at the $5 tier mark. You can, if you want, binge us for $5. And there's like 150 episodes, almost 150 at this point. and you can listen to all that content there. Even the stuff that's been released from the vault, none of that has been the full episode as well. So trying to keep our $5 tier people happy. But yeah, check that out. And then our $10 tier gets you all of the above, plus it gets you a monthly meetup show where you meet up with us monthly, and it's like a Zoom-like call, and we have a topic at hand, or sometimes videos we react to and things like that. And that's at the $10 tier. Every tier that you get, like the $5 tier, gets you the $1 tier benefits, and the $10 tier gets you the $5 tier benefits and the $1 tier benefits. So check that out at patreon.com/superherostuffpod. We also got the merch, which is Redbubble, superhousepod.redbubble.com, and on Threadless, superherostuffpod.threadless.com. Get your Bin Man and Indeed Wizard mug, shirt, shower curtains, and all the rest artwork by Stefan Santa Cruz. And please send us some audio at superhousepodcast@gmail.com. A bumper would be great. You too can be part of the show. I'm ThunderWolfDrew on Instagram and Twitter. ThunderWolf Lives is my other YouTube channel, one of my many YouTube channels. And I have also ThunderWolfDrew.com has my whole portfolio in one place. And that's it, Ben.
Follow us on social media, on Twitter at SuperHousePod, Instagram Superhero Stuff Pod, where we have some different supplemental stuff. I've even analyzed the martial arts stance that the Keaton ornament from The Flash is in, so you can check that out on our Instagram, Superhero Stuff Pod, TikTok, Superhero Stuff Pod, Vero, Superhero Stuff Pod. My website is benjuanwriter.com, where you can read a whole bunch of spec scripts, including Gotham, Vampire, Elementary, The Death of Sherlock Holmes, and Curb Your Enthusiasm, Disneyland. If you're fans of any of those shows, check them out and let us know what you think. My YouTube channel is in the description below, including Doctor Who, The Ronin of Time, an audio drama I write, edit, and narrate with the 8th Doctor meeting Miyamoto Musashi. My personal Instagram is benjuanwriter. If you like cats, my son, Alfie, my cat, is at Alfie Pennyworth Cat. And if you have an Alfie yourself, then you can get the Whisker Box, the only cat box with a crazy cat lady and gent. And you can even check out another page on that website, superherostuffpod.com/show notes. That includes various show notes for each of our episodes, links to the scripts that we review if they're available online, Amazon links to the stuff we've been talking about, including, Brian Levant's book that he plugged for us, My Life and Toys. So check that out at superherostuffpod.com/show notes.
Lord have mercy, y'all. Do you like hounds? Do you enjoy pooches? Do you find yourself enjoying time spent with that of canines? Talking about dogs, y'all.
As you might have heard, Superhero Stuff You Should Know has now teamed up with BarkBox. For every month, you get a box for your special canine.
Pooches.
Or hounds.
That's right. One free extra month if you go to barkbox.com/superherostuffpod.
Follow the link and you'll get a free extra month valued at $35 and valid for all multi-length plans.
So get the BarkBox for your hound, for your pooch, for your canine.
Your doggo will thank you.
Why do you smell like shit?
And we are back, and we're going to go over the different scenes of Spider-Man 2 rendered in concept art by the different artists, including, once again, Tim Flattery at some point. So, but before then, we got this piece from Will Maddock Rees again. So this is Spider-Man fighting Doc Ock on top of that sort of clock tower that they have the big fight on for a couple times in the movie. According to Will Rees, quote, the point of this image was the architecture of the clock tower and how the city around the building would look with these, as we can see with the light coming down, sort of God's fingers of light streaming down, as Rees described it. So, an interesting look on that. I don't think we really quite got this look for, like, the city, but the clock tower is pretty close to what we got in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, pretty angelic.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even have a shot this wide, probably. I think, right?
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember it looking like this. It was usually pretty close when we got to Doc Ock and Spider-Man fighting.
Yeah.
We have this other look here set during night, and this one's kind of a little lighter on stuff, but Reese said, quote, "I've done a lot of day for night illustrations, so doing night for day was fun and challenging." Alex Tavolaris did some clock tower concepts that Andrea was working up into architectural plans. Also, my clock tower work concentrated on the action between Spider-Man and Doc Ock, like we see here. And so we can kind of see that they are fighting at the top there, and the scale just sort of shows just how huge everything is. You know, like Spider-Man and Doc Ock are tiny. You almost miss them if you're not like looking in their direction.
And the tower's just really like Doc Ock's colors too, kind of.
That too, yeah.
The
so
Doc
it really
Ock
blends
tower.
into it. Yeah. And then we have this other look here of Doc Ock at the top with Spider-Man, sort of web slinging his way away temporarily, I'm sure. So we've got this look, and then we got some from our pal Tim Flattery on Doc Ock himself. Now that Ock's in action, we have that sort of matrixy look with the sunglasses and the long coat. And once again, some what looks like lights coming out of the ends of the tentacles there.
Looks kind of like Sandman, also.
Oh yeah, the DC, the Sandman.
The DC Sandman, yeah. This kind of they got that vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And then we got this one, which is like a more. This is not what we got in the movie, but sort of like a more refined look to his clothes. Like it's a little bit very, very long, like cape-like coat in the back there.
Yeah.
So pretty cool. I think maybe he'd evolve into that. That's not something that he would look like in this movie.
It looks like kind of like Darth Vader.
A little bit, yeah, with that
Yeah.
the way that a cape was flowing back,
Yeah.
and I guess the sides too. Like around his shoulders, like that area.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty awesome, Tim.
Yes.
And then this other one with Doc Ock lifting a car. So they wanted to sort of show the scale of this, but this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It looks like a 90s album cover of some sort, like an industrial band.
Maybe that was the inspiration. We'd have to ask him.
Yeah, something like that. Let us know, Tim. That'd be good to know. Good to find out.
Let's see. Moving further, we have this one from Will Maddock Rees again with Doc Ock. Basically looks like this is him escaping the hospital after taking out all the doctors and the surgeons and stuff, because we can see that it looks like the open area, open garage, and an ambulance is like right there, presumably the one that took him there. So he's like on a rampage coming out. And again, just dark city vibes with the city. There's a much darker look at the city than what we got in the Raimi movies.
Yeah, a lot of this art is. I mean, this shot is cool though. I mean, I wish I had some more to say. I mean, the city it looks cool. Doc Ock looks cool. I don't know.
It could just be Reese's style too, because I noticed a lot of his stuff is kind of like this dark, stylistic look, which is really cool. Just not quite what we got in the movie, but still, like, you can see why Sam Raimi liked his stuff.
Yeah.
There's another one as well of Spider-Man. This is not a scene in the movie, but we have a lot of the criminals being sort of caught inside of a net that's hanging from the mouth of a lion gargoyle. And Spider-Man just chilling out. It looks like unmasked. Again, this is just concept art, of course. But this is interesting because we never really got a scene like this in the movie.
Kind of Batman-esque.
A little bit. It's interesting too, because when I saw this, I'm just like, it feels like a little bit of a obviously a Spider-Man movie, but like it feels appropriate as a Spider-Man gargoyle look as opposed to a Batman gargoyle look. And I think maybe it's just because the lion, and also the style of it, like it feels like a newer type of gargoyle as opposed to like in the Batman look, it's usually like an old school European gargoyle look, and this one looks a little bit more of like a more modern age. Like it's not from stone, it's part of the building, so maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
A little bit less Art Deco. Oh, this is kind of Art Deco-ish, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's definitely got more of a Spider-Man vibe, but it's funny that his villains the bad guys are caught in the web under there.
Yeah, it looks like they had a bag of money and the cash is coming out of it, which if that's what Spidey deliberately was trying to do, then it does have echoes of the James Cameron scriptman, where he had a scene where Spider-Man kind of just gives away all this drug money to the city and stuff. And so that's an interesting tie-in to that unmade script. moving forward, we have this was an interesting scene I liked. So this is Doc Ock's ruined lab, and he returns back to it a broken man, which we didn't really see in the movie. He kind of just went to that sort of like waterfront like area and decided this is my new lab. But it looks like he returns to the scene of the accident, and he had his own. We can see Molina here. He had his own Vitruvian Man illustration of himself on here. Not really sure why.
Delusions of grandeur.
I guess so.
For the villain, you know.
And then we've got this freaky looking. I'm not really sure what this is because it looks like there are pieces of paper coming off. It's not like a funhouse mirror reflection, but it almost looks like a zombie-esque type of thing.
Okay. Oh, look, I don't know how they would have done this in the movie, but my read on this is like they got real artsy with it. We're already got the Vitruvian Man kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is kind of like the duality of man kind of deal or something. Like you got angelic figure and then demonic figure. They're the same man. They got both wolves inside of him or whatever. So that's what I think this is probably supposed to be an artistic rendition of. Mm-hmm. It's like a mirror, and he's seeing kind of both. And maybe it's the in this case it's the tentacles influence on his mind.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean,
so
maybe the reason why they cut this is they didn't really have a justification for why Octavius would have that in his lab before the accident. It makes sense after, right? Because he knows. But here, because he presumably would have had this before the accident.
Right.
Maybe they just figured it doesn't make sense. It's cool artistically, but story-wise, there's really no good explanation for this. So
right.
But kind of funny. It's amusing to see Molina's face there because that looks more like Molina than the Doc Ock facing him.
Yeah, looks like Brendan Fraser almost to me. But
in terms of the Ock whose back is towards us.
I mean, yeah, his face in the picture. I don't know why I think that. Sometimes I see.
I think it's the hair.
It's something weird. Yeah, I don't know.
Hair,
anyway,
yeah, it's Molina's face, but with like a different hairstyle.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The hair's kind of Brendan Fraser-y, I think, in the 90s.
So this is interesting stuff. On the left, we got Jamie Rama's art of Ock sending the car through the diner when Peter's talking to MJ. And then storyboard artist David Lowery worked on how it looked in the storyboards. But Dan found this very funny take on this. And this is funny because of the fact that all the guys running away through this are members of the art department.
That's cool, man.
Artists in here, Alex Tavaleris is the one who does not give a fuck and is just sitting and sipping on his coffee on this. So,
that's cool. I like that.
I don't know if I can't tell if Tim. Oh, I think it might be Tim. It might be Tim in the white shirt, who's on his, who's like being sent back. But I don't know. It's hard to tell because of the, everything's all kind of meant to be blurry, and everyone's kind of looking smaller. But
you got like action blur, except for the one dude in the middle, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
By the way, the font here at the bottom, they used that font, Spider-Man 2 font, I think, for the PlayStation 3, like on the system. And it kind of, to me at the time, it kind of gave the vibe. It's like, is there like a permanent tie-in with Spider-Man with the PlayStation 3? But it's just that Sony loves that font. It's just Sony. It's a Sony font.
The Sony font, yeah.
I guess so. That was what that was. But anyway, I still think of that to this day.
And it is interesting too because certain fonts will evoke certain movies.
Yes.
So it does make sense that you would have that connection to it. It's very rare for me to see the Batman '89 font for how it said Batman on the posters, and whenever I see it again, it's hard not to associate that with the movie, even if they use it in a generic sense, because they use the same font on the cover of the No Man's Land novelization, but it looks so 89ish in terms of the font because it is the same exact one. It's the same exact font, it feels. So it's interesting how it almost feels like you kind of need to have your own distinct font for the title of your movies, especially these major movies.
Except the funniest one is Avatar. They use papyrus.
Yes, I saw the Ryan Gosling sketch on that one.
Man, that shit's hilarious, though. I love
Yeah.
that exists. You got the most expensive movies in the fucking world, made by one of the biggest guys in the world, and their main logo, they use fucking papyrus. Just use Comic Sans next time.
we
Why
spent
don't
the
you?
money on everything else.
Yeah, we ran out of budget on the graphic design department. My God.
You
By the
gotta
way,
stick with our Microsoft Word options.
Gosling is as funny as he is handsome. You got to see Barbie, man. You haven't seen it yet, right?
I haven't seen it, but I know he's funny. I've seen him in a bunch of comedies or comedy movies with comedy elements in it where he's funny, like The Nice Guys.
He's so funny, dude. He's he's funny as Ken. Anyway, moving forward.
Yeah. Let's see. Going further, we have, I teased this in the beginning, this is a deleted final shot. So one of Sam Raimi's first ideas was to have the shot of, well, actually, let me preface this real quick. Let me back up. So for those who haven't seen the movie in a long time, the finale is MJ deciding to leave Jameson's son at the altar and go to Peter's apartment where she, basically professes her love for Peter, and they decide to get together, and then Peter hears the sirens, and she tells him to go get him, Tiger, and he takes off as Spider-Man. So what we see here are two different versions of the idea that Sam Raimi had, that we would see Spider-Man swing out with MJ still in the window, gazing out at him in the background.
Okay.
Which we didn't get to see. I think in the movie, the shot is on her, and we see the reflection of Spider-Man taking off.
Okay.
This is interesting, and would have been a cool shot.
It would have been.
Yeah, the top storyboard is by Jeffrey Lynch, and the bottom one is once again Will Rees. So kind of having this finished illustration of it. Overall, pretty cool. I'm not really sure why they changed it. Maybe they thought it was too difficult of a shot, is my guess.
They probably wanted, again, I mean, okay, so it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but just my thoughts on it. Like, they wanted that last scene to be sort of from the perspective of MJ, you think?
Maybe, yeah, and in terms of her gazing out on him and us sort of, like, we're happy. The vibe I get from that, as well as, like, we're happy, but also kind of know that, and maybe I'm wrong on that last shot. Kind of need to rewatch it again. But maybe I'm just fucking wrong on this. But from what
Somebody
I remember,
will correct us.
that shot was there, and I think it was like, hey, we're happy that they're together, but is hinting at Spider-Man 3. Like, that's not going to solve all the problems. Like there's still going to be a conflict between his Spider-Man side and his Peter Parker side as like being MJ's boyfriend, which we see in Spider-Man 3, which I imagine they had the idea, not necessarily of the whole movie at that point, but probably knew that, hey, we're going to end it this way, and if we do a third one, it's probably going to show that, like, it's not exactly happily ever after. It's not exactly like, oh, you got the girl, and now, like, your life is just good now and well-balanced. Like, no, not exactly. So I think maybe that's what they wanted to portray, as opposed to this, where it's just kind of just, it's a cool shot. Maybe it was trying to hint at, like, oh, he has to leave MJ behind, but he's kind of been doing that for the last two movies. So I don't think it really has, maybe it doesn't have quite the same meaning.
Yeah, I mean, this shot would be sort of from Spider-Man's perspective, more or less, and the other one is from her perspective. Again, just talking about filmmaking as much as we can, like what perspective is this scene from? And you don't want to, like, unless you want to do it on purpose. Again, there's not really any rules in art, you know, but like a guideline is that you kind of want the perspective to be the same at least throughout the scene, if not through the whole movie, if you can. But it does. Movies do change from scene to scene. It does happen, but I don't know. Maybe they thought it was awkward, or they just Raimi just liked the other one more. I don't know why. It's cool. It's cool to think about. I like this shot. It would have been a cool shot too. But maybe he says it in a behind the scenes somewhere, and maybe somebody will say that in the comments. I don't know.
Let us know. But it is a cool shot. And then the last one, we ended last time with a video of the Goblin mask. Now we're going to show some test shots of the Tentacles. So we have here,
Sick.
very cool.
Edge effects.
Cool.
Okay,
Edge
I know
effects did
these guys.
Yeah. Let's see. Them physically moving it as well. This guy now in the sort of the Matrix look of the sunglasses. And the coat.
Yeah.
This is the hospital scene. This is him reading, where he's got the tentacles on him. Kind of cool. But yeah, these are all kind of the different ways that we're going to bring this to life. And
this is
it's
cool.
Pretty awesome.
It's all practical, man. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta tell you, man, I don't know these guys personally, but I can just kind of tell, like, effects dudes, man, and dudettes, they love this shit, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they fucking, like, they're comic book nerds. I'm not gonna say any specifics, but, like, I've heard of effects people in meetings kind of correcting producers on comic book knowledge. Like, and they had
Somebody has to.
And they had to go back and change the script, I think, or it wasn't like a total overhaul, but
oh wow.
But it was like a little detail they had to change at least or something. But and that anyway, I'm not going to get into specifics on that, but stuff like that happens, and yeah, I could just tell by that footage, man. They love that shit, man.
Oh yeah.
Just like you and I would, and do. So, yeah,
to be able to
cool.
bring a comic book to life, especially like Doc Ock's Tentacles, where you're the first time in live action where this is going to happen.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's a dream come true, and I'm sure they had a ton of fun. You can tell based off that video.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of fun. And it's the first Doc Ock in live action. It's quite the kind of the privilege to do that. So, really cool, and ended up being one of the best ones ever.
Yep.
So I remember, before we go into the last part, I remember I was in college my second year maybe, and somebody from this movie, before it came out, they'd come to give a speech on visual effects or something, and so I was there, and somebody asked, like, who's the next villain? And I guess I wasn't checking in on movie news because I'm sure it was online, but somebody asked in the crowd, and he was like, oh, well, it's going to be Doc Ock. And then the crowd went wild. And that was my first time learning too. It was like being in Hall H, kind of, at Comic-Con San Diego. And that before the movie came out, that's actually my first memory of Spider-Man 2, was just being in college and being with somebody that worked on the movie. So which was, yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
I don't remember actually when I found out it was going to be Doc Ock for Spider-Man 2, or I think it might have been the thing where I kind of just assumed that's where they were going to go. I don't remember.
Yeah. I mean, after Green Goblin and after Venom, which is another story, but like, wouldn't you say Doc Ock is like one of his top villains, right?
Oh, yeah.
It makes total sense they did that.
Yeah, and there was also, the fact that they were exploring the idea of having Doc Ock for so long when they were developing the first one, that it just seemed like, well, clearly it's going to be him. Without really, it's not like they had a hint towards it too. Like in Batman Begins at the end, it's very clear like Joker's the next villain when they revealed that card. So it wasn't really a surprise when they said Joker's going to be in the second one. I'm like, well, of course he is. It would be weird if he wasn't. But this one, like, there wasn't really a hint that like Doc Ock is coming. It was just kind of just generally assumed, I guess, because of the fact that they had been trying to play around with the idea of putting him in the first one, ended up not having him in it and had Green Goblin instead. That it seemed like, okay, now this is the time for us to do that. So yeah, it's weird. I don't really remember when I found out or how I found out or having much of a reaction to it. I might have just been just like, well, yeah, of course that's what they were going to do, right?
I don't think that guy spilled the beans in front of my school in Savannah, Georgia. There's no way that was the first time that was known, but that was the first time I found out about it, and apparently the rest of the fucking crowd also, because the people went nuts.
Yeah, and they wouldn't have if they all knew. So
yeah.
I miss those days, man. Like, I miss those days where, like, you just didn't know, and then, like, stuff like that. Something as small as just, like, oh, like, the next villain... Well, I guess that's not small, but you know what I mean? Like, something like that would have, like, a big impact when you go to a live event like that. And now it's just, like, one click away every week.
Yeah, we used to not know shit, and it was great.
Yeah, I know, and it's now kind of just I miss the feeling of it being like monumental when they're like, oh, this guy is going to be the villain in the next movie, even though it's going to come out in like 2 movies. And now it's just like, all right, yeah, that's fine. You know?
Well, a lot of it's too is just being spoiled left and right with nonstop superhero content.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that was well before the MCU, and you know, we had just gotten one good one and a couple good X-Men movies. You know, so we were kind of on a roll, and you know, we just weren't, but we still weren't spoiled yet, not quite. Yeah. You know, now they could make a movie about you know, Groot's grandkids and nobody would bat an eye. Yeah. You know, like it's they're gonna do everything really. So.
So yeah, miss those days. But yeah, it was nice to take a look through the memory lane of all these different concept art and see what it took to bring Doc Ock to life in that movie. And you know, I think everybody can agree they pulled it off.
Do you like 1 or 2 more?
I actually think I like 1 more.
Really?
Than 2 for a couple reasons. I think I think it's because of the fact that I think each scene in Spider-Man 1, this is similar to Batman Begins. I feel like every scene propels something forward, whether it's the story or some introduction, like just the sheer economy of like the first 5 minutes of Spider-Man. You know who Peter Parker is, you know what he wants, you know who his best friend is, you know the villain of the story, and you are just about to watch the origin. That's all set up in the first 5 minutes, as opposed to I feel like these days you would get, oh, here's Peter Parker. And that's it for like the first 5 minutes. Right. So like, there's the economy of that I don't think Spider-Man 2 quite reaches. And then I just kind of felt like the Doc Ock, even though I like Molina's performance and stuff, the fact that he is once again another, you know, scientist guy who is friendly to Peter and then runs into an accident and then is like kind of controlled by this outer force and isn't really evil, but this outer force is making him evil. And has Oscorp ties. I'm just like, it's a little repetitive. Right. They got away with it because of just how good the rest of the movie is. Because the real heart of Spider-Man 2 isn't necessarily, oh, this villain, or how well they portray the Spider-Man versus Doc Ock dynamic. It's more about, like, Peter's life. Like, Peter Parker, his story, and trying to get with MJ. Like, that's at the heart of Spider-Man 2 a lot more, I think. And Doc Ock's just kind of the antagonist for all of that, which is an interesting approach. But yeah, that's kind of why I think I do prefer 1 over 2. That said, I still really like 2, but I think it's a similar thing to Batman Begins and Dark Knight, where I'm just like, I like the first one better, even though most people like the second one better.
I can see what you're saying. I might need to see 1 and 2 again. I haven't seen them in a long time, man. You know, I saw them in the theater a couple times each. And then I got the, you know, like a good fan, I got the DVDs when they came out, watched them a couple times then, but I haven't really seen them a whole lot since then. Be kind of interesting to put eyes on them now, especially after going over so many scripts and stuff over the years with the podcast. But yeah, I can see what you're saying. I don't really, I know I said like the 2 was my favorite of the Maguires, but it's kind of a testament because I don't love Doc Ock generally. You know, like he's I know Spider-Man's supposed to be silly and hokey, especially in his early years and stuff, and you're supposed to love that. But I don't know. That just is the look isn't super cool. Like the look for Hobgoblin and Green Goblin are cooler to me overall. Yeah. So if we're going over looks, if we have the same story beats like you said, looks wise probably goes to Green Goblin more, and Hobgoblin's even. We never even really got Hobgoblin in the movies, right?
Nope, not yet.
I wish we had gotten, because Hobgoblin was even more badass. It looked even more evil.
And he was Mark Hamill in the cartoon.
And then Venom's my favorite, but they fucked that up royally, pretty much. You know.
In general, they haven't nailed it.
In general, Andy Serkis been the only one that make one any like worth a fuck. And it's not even great. It's just kind of accident. Like I keep saying, Venom 2 is like kind of like accidentally good. Like what the fuck is this? My brain can't even wrap around it. Like if you ever see it, Ben, you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay. And we had I believe Alex of the What Mean podcast agreed with me. He said that he enjoyed it as well. So I'm not alone. And they're making another one. So I guess I'm not alone. Definitely not alone. But I think what 2 had going for it was it definitely, I remember it feeling grander.
Yes.
You know, it was a more epic scale, and it was they had upped the scale from the first one, which and the rest of it pretty much came together. So I did love that. But this is the one where they take the mask off and everybody sees it, but everybody just kind of agrees to look away, kind of thing. That scene I thought was kind of awkward, and his face when he's like, everybody. I remember being in the theater. It kind of took me out of it, man. Like I know
a little bit, yeah.
McGuire's not Brad Pitt, but it's like I don't know, man. It just looked weird to me. But
yes.
Anyway, you know, I remember liking it quite a bit. But you know, yeah, I'll probably have to see him again to really judge. But I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah. But yeah, no, they're both solid. You know, and I do really love both movies. So I think that it's not really one or the other so much as just like one slightly above the other just because of what I said.
Right.
So,
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, for sure, it had that grander feeling, that epic feeling. Like you really felt like you were watching something special and something emotional when you really cared about what was going on and you didn't really want to, you know, have the experience end.
Oh, last thing I'll say too, since we're rounding this out, I know I always bring up Japan shit, but I lived there for 3 years, et cetera, et cetera. These movies, to me, as far as I can tell, especially Maguire 1 and 2, are like the only Marvel movies that have been like a legit hit in Japan. I don't even think the MCU is like they do kind of okay, you know, like they're not bombs, but they're not like mega hits. But the Maguire ones, for whatever reason, and I've heard many Japanese people talk about it, they love them. And like more than Batman, more than any other superhero film I've ever heard any of them talk about, it's always about these first two Maguire movies. So something interesting culturally going on there. You know, and of course, you know, they love that he's a teenager or younger. You know, it's a lot of Japanese culture stuff getting into that. But you know, I always thought that was interesting.
It's interesting as those two are not like every Spider-Man. Like because I'm just like, okay, I would get it if it was just like, okay, 1 and 2, and then like maybe one of the Garfield ones, and then, you know, the last couple Tom Holland ones, but just these first two, I'm just like, okay, well, what happened afterwards? I
think it was just new at the time, and so I think Spider-Man, out of anything Marvel, Spider-Man's always like kind of going to be at the top in Japan. And they had their own TV show too. There's some cultural, you know, their connections there with Spider-Man, you know, and Common Rider's like a bug-like character, and the, you know, like any kind of bug kind of thing. I don't know what it is. It's just something they connect with, I guess. And I think that they've all done okay, but the Maguire ones, maybe because they're first, they just really hit it off. Like if you mention X-Men, most people don't know what you're talking about. Again, I was in Japan in 2008 when The Dark Knight came out. Fucking nobody even know what the fuck it was. I was like losing my mind. Good thing I have the internet so I can talk to American friends. And dude, Iron Man 1, because it was new, MCU wasn't even like a thing yet. Like that was like barely a thing. I saw Iron Man 1 at home. I never even saw it in the fucking theater.
Oh wow.
Can you believe that? I was living in Japan, different time in my life. But anyway, yeah, Spider-Man, huge, you know, pretty big in Japan, and like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting topic. Topic.
Yeah. Well, let us know, guys, which one you prefer, Spider-Man 1 or 2. I think a lot of people prefer 2, but let us know. Maybe there are other people who are like me on this. But until then, that is superhero stuff you should know. Big thanks to our research assistant, Dan, for gathering the visuals for this. Let's move on to the fan comments.
Woo!
So Braxton Wages, welcome back, Braxton. You had a comment on the Unused Batfleck concept art where I pointed out an image of Jeremy Irons in a hat, and I was just like, I don't remember what this was. This might have just been for a costume test. Braxton has filled in the deets. saying, quote, "The scene where Alfred wears the hat in BVS is at the beginning of the funeral procession when young Bruce leaves Alfred's side and runs into the woods." I hadn't considered that scene, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
So thank you, Braxton.
Thank you.
Moving further, Brandon Spain commented on our video essay on Carla Gugino not being Zack Snyder's choice for Catwoman, but kind of just him chiming in on that being a cool fan idea. So Brandon said, "Carla would have been a phenomenal Catwoman from the 2000s to 2010s. Her performance in Spy Kids really showed that. There's scenes of her sneaking around, being stealthy, cracking jokes, and her introduction dressed in black with shades going, 'Do I know you?' is exactly what Selena Kyle would do to Bruce. I remember when I heard this back in 2019, 2020, in terms of her being Snyder's choice, I was a little mad, but now seeing that it might have not been planned, I guess there's some relief." You're welcome, Brandon.
You're welcome. Good to relieve you.
Thank you for this and filling us in on more evidence that she would have been good. Because I think she would have been good. She just was not, like, people act like there were actual plans in place when there really weren't.
Were you a little too old for Spy Kids, the first one?
I was, yeah. I've never seen any of the Spy Kids.
I never have either. I was well too old for it. I mean, I watch shit for kids all the time, but that's just one of the ones I haven't. But I gotta say, I could tell if I was of the age, I probably would have been into it.
Yeah. I could also see myself going back and, like, enjoying it from the lens of, like, being a 2000s kid. And watching this, so, like, maybe I'll check it out and see.
Yeah, the first thing I remember that like a kid property coming out that I was just like, maybe I'm too old for this, was Pokemon.
Yeah, I was around the same with that. The only Pokemon thing I've really experienced is Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, I did see that in the theater too. Yeah. My little brother was in it and was into Pokemon, but I just like. For me, elder millennial born in 84, like I feel like a lot of people like kind of stopped at Power Rangers. Anything post Power Rangers was just like we were done. Mm-hmm. For the most part, I mean, I don't know. That's just my experience. I'm not trying to shit on anybody else, but yeah, Spy Kids was even after Pokemon. So
yeah. So I don't know. I'll check out at least the first one at some point. If anything, for Carla Gugino, sneaking around in black.
Yes, and Robert Rodriguez directing it, right?
Yep, that too.
Directing it, I think writing it, doing the effects, like he does everything in those movies. At least the first one.
It's also the introduction of Danny Trejo as Machete.
Yeah, dude. Rodriguez is cool. I support Rodriguez, so yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. All right, last one comes from Stanwood 32. This was on your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem review, saying, "I agree with the lack of what the foundation of the Turtles originally was, the martial arts. The martial art code of ethics was sprinkled in each story, comic-wise and movies. That is what is in their DNA and why Splinter is their sensei. The feel was off for sure."
Oh, man. So if you guys don't know, this is in one of my weekly videos, which was a review for Mutant Mayhem, the Ninja Turtles movie, recent one. By Seth Rogen, and I'm glad you had the same feeling I did, Stan Wood. It was just, I mean, look, it doesn't have to have it, and it was a good movie overall, but it was just something kind of missing, and they kind of just like learn martial arts from videos and shit, which does kind of, it's in keeping with them just kind of being in the sewers the whole time. But, there was always something cool about Splinter being a rat from Japan and also, having.
What's the point of Jackie Chan being Splinter if you're not going to have him? It doesn't make sense.
I think like they didn't want to like say Splinter was Chinese, and they didn't want to say Splinter was Japanese because Jackie Chan's Chinese. I think there was a whole thing there, kind of.
Yeah, but they
figuring out the cultural appropriateness, not appropriation, but what's appropriate, right?
Even outside of that, though, like if you got a major martial arts star as the voice of this guy who's typically the sensei, why wouldn't you just have him be the sensei?
He is the sensei. But he is just like again. It makes sense in their story In their story, they all kind of get the ooze at the same time in New York. So that means that Splinter has never been to Japan, okay?
Oh, I see. Okay.
So there's where the change to the lore is. Whereas in the old one, you literally have a little animatronic rat doing doing ninjutsu, you know, kind of shadowing some guy in Japan, some oozes in Japan, and then Splinter moves to New York somehow and becomes the father of the turtles. So I mean, it is more outlandish, but it's fucking Ninja Turtles to begin with. So like, it's this change to lore, which kind of like everything involving the lore with Japan and martial arts is like slightly changed in Mutant Mayhem, and you know what? What they changed it to something that made sense. So I don't hate it entirely. It's just something about the martial arts of it all was glossed over in a way to me.
That's a shame.
But you know, I don't know. It's fine. Whatever. We're going to get Shredder in the next one. Spoilers, you know. But and there'll probably be more martial arts shit in
I would
that.
hope so.
You know, they call this one Mutant Mayhem, right? And Stefan from the old podcast, he said the next one should be called Ninja Nightmare.
Ooh.
Which would be a sweet title, because you're going to have a lot more ninja shit with Shredder going on, so that's cool.
Keep
and
that
the other
alliteration.
the other thing too, the old lore has, you know, Splinter and Shredder having some beef in Japan before they ever come to America, so that whole deal is going to be different now too.
Yeah.
And you know, they took some liberties. You know, they always do. It's fine. You know, I'm nearly 40. You know, they're not going to keep it the way I want it. This, look, let me know, anybody out there, to this day, there is something better. The best Ninja Turtles incarnation ever is probably that 2012 series, the Nickelodeon one. You know, I think the first Ninja Turtles movie in 1990, and then 2012, the Nickelodeon CG one. Best ever so far. I haven't seen Rise yet. I've heard Rise is actually quite good once you get used to it. I haven't seen that yet. But anyway, that's where my rankings are. And thank you for commenting on this. And thanks for bringing it up, Ben.
Nice. All right. On to the shoutouts.
All right. I want to see more tit-based names here. Okay, guys. So we're gonna thank Tita and Titbout first of all. Got to get them out of the way.
Yes, we would.
And then we'll go back up to Slight Rebellion off Madison, and because he's part of the $10 tier, and thanks to everybody else part of the $10 tier, of course, for sure. And then Bruce K, Sketchcraft, Kyle B, Darren P, Devin, Renee V, JPF, Devin S, and somebody random, Dan D. It's been a while. And Alex of the What Mean Podcast, you're back on. So I saw that, and everybody else has just recently joined as well. Everybody, of course, everybody. Super Inframan, everybody. Man, Leom O, it's been a while. Sorry, I've been doing just the more recent ones lately, and I you know. Anyway, yeah, thanks to everybody, of course. And other supporters as well, Sparkageddon, STCT Productions, Robert Schumann, Kooky and Noms. Kooky, do you still listen to us? I feel like maybe you dropped off. Send us a comment if you're going, oh man, Matt Herring, R.I.P. Whew.
Yeah, we're obviously gonna keep him on.
Yeah, keep him on. Jackson Putnam, everybody, man. Ian H, Walter the Wobot. Let's just do everybody here. It's Tway N, Joey. That's W.Media. Paul G, Watson. That's at Stage Bet. These are all on Instagram, by the way. Shamrock Balls. Elijah B. Yeah, sorry if I missed somebody. That's it. So Rye Guy. Sorry about Rye Guy. Last but not least, Rye Guy and Wells. Thank you, everybody. And we've told you about our friends, and we'd like you to do us a favor.
We want you to tell all your friends about us.